In the midst of this melee, even children are not spared by those who are going on a rampage. Protesters target a bus filled with children. Now listen to them whimpering and crying. We're going to listen to them as well. Put the audio up. And
नहीं, वो माहौल जो इस तरह का बना हुआ है, उसमें बच्चे का देख रहे रो रहा है काफी।
क्या आप लोग उसको अच्छा है ना कि उसको क्लीन करवाइए।
डर लग रहा है क्या?
नहीं।
किस चीज का डर लग रहा है बेटा आपको?
अच्छा बेटा कोई बात नहीं, बेटा बैठ जाओ।
किस चीज से डर लग रहा है बेटा आपको?
कोई बात। तुम नाटक क्यों कर रहे हो? आप प्लीज आइए ना अंकल। कुछ नहीं आप जाइए
to see that child crying, whimpering, because for the first time in his life he's perhaps seen danga to this extent, where buses are being burned, where rails are being burned. In fact, we spoke to the driver of the school bus as well. Listen in.
मेरे स्कूल की बस है सर, इसमें बच्चा भरा हुआ है और यहाँ रोड जाम है। लड़का ये लोग बोल रहे हैं नहीं जाने देंगे, तो हम उसको क्या कर सकते हैं? हम तो सिंगल आदमी है। ये लोग चाहेंगे तो तभी न जा सकेंगे, हम ऐसे तो नहीं जा सकेंगे हम।
बच्चे भी काफी डरे में रो रहे हैं भाई।
जी बच्चे भी हमारे गाड़ी में रो रहे हैं, तो मैं क्या करूँ?
आपने बात की थी तो लोगों ने क्या कहा?
ये लोग बोल रहे हैं कि नहीं आप गाड़ी बैक कीजिए। हम कह मेरी बड़ी गाड़ी है, बैक नहीं कर सकते हैं, यहीं पर खड़ा है, जब तक आप लोग नहीं कहिएगा नहीं ले जाएंगे। वो लोग खुद बोल रहे हैं कि बच्चे आपको रो रहा है गाड़ी में। तो हम बोले फिर तो आप कह भी रहे हैं कि बच्चे रो रहा है गाड़ी में, आप खुद बोल रहे हैं गाड़ी मेरा खड़ा किए हुए, तो मैं क्या करूँगा?
किस स्कूल की गाड़ी है
ये है बिरला ओपन मैन इंटरनेशनल स्कूल।
क्या नाम हुआ आपका?
मेरा नाम सुरेश यादव।
आप क्या हुए इसके?
ये
आप क्या है गाड़ी में?
मैं बस ड्राइवर हूँ। ये
क्या परेशानी आपको?
हमारे स्कूल की बस है सर, इसमें बच्चा भरा हुआ है और यहाँ रोड।
Well, look at the price that these children are being forced to pay. It's time to put India first. It's time to put peace first. If there are any problems, this kind of vandalism, this kind of arson cannot be acceptable, no matter what the grouse with the center is, no matter what the grouse with the scheme of Agnipath is. This kind of ire where you have children who've been reduced to tears because their school bus has been stopped by the protesters who are rioting around them. Look at the plight of this boy. He's barely 6 or 7 years old, and the kind of ordeal that he's undergoing psychologically as well. Listen in.
नहीं, वो माहौल जो इस तरह का बना हुआ है, उसमें बच्चे का देख रहे रो रहा है काफी।
क्या आप लोग उसको अच्छा है ना कि उसको क्लीन करवाइए।
डर लग रहा है क्या?
नहीं।
किस चीज का डर लग रहा है बेटा आपको?
अच्छा बेटा कोई बात नहीं, बेटा बैठ जाओ।
किस चीज से डर लग रहा है बेटा आपको?
कोई बात। तुम नाटक क्यों कर रहे हो? आप प्लीज आइए ना अंकल।
Let me go across to Aditya. Aditya, it's heart-wrenching to see this child whimpering in fear as he has rioters surrounding his bus. Tell us, what happened to this bus? Why was this bus? Why wasn't it a loud passage when there were children crying inside it?
Well, exactly. The incident was reported in Darbhanga district of Bihar, wherein the students of normal school were actually moving ahead to their respective schools in their school bus. And that being said, they just actually bore the brunt of the protesters who were actually protesting against the Agnipath scheme as brought about by the central government. But that being said, these are the visuals of school students, school kids being a prey of the protesters, and they are actually whimpering for mercy and to be allowed to go back to their places.
Well, it's really sad. What happened after that? Was this school allowed to go? And what about the schools? Are they still open? Are they still functioning? Or is there any band which has been called?
Well, exactly. As far as most of the schools of Bihar are concerned, they have actually their ongoing summer vacations, but some of the schools, they are actually conducting special classes for students to ensure the better academic future for them. But that being said, any sort of action by the protesters on school students and blocking them on roads is something inadmissible.
Well, Aditya, you spoke to these students, and it's really sad to see this little boy. He's barely 6 years old, I believe. He's whimpering in fear as there are rioters who surrounded their school bus and they stopped it. What were these children saying, whatever little they could muster up and speak?
Well, exactly. The students, they just wanted the mobs to just let them go and just do their work, because they considered that they were somewhere nothing to do with what happened by what was actually done by the central government and also by this. And interesting to note that these are not the school kids, but also the cops out here in Patta, in Danapur. They were even also, begging for orders, begging for reinforcement. But then we saw on screens what happened.
Absolutely. It's not just school children. Even the khaki were not spared in this rampage that the protesters went on. Aditya, you spoke to the school driver, through the bus driver as well. What did he say? How are things unfolding around him? Was there violence, arson that these children saw with their very own eyes? Is that what reduced them to tears?
Well, exactly, of course. What transpired in front of their eyes was something that actually petrified them. And this is the reason why the school kids were actually whimpering. And that the school driver too even was actually requesting the protesters just to allow them to go on their own, because they had nothing to do with the protest, or they were not parties or from any side. They were not stakeholders, they were kids.
Well, it's really sad that something like this has happened. Let me